Hello everybody, this is Jeff Janess and welcome to our 5th lab exercise in data types in ArcGIS Pro. In this case we're going to look at a multi-band raster. In the last lab exercise you might remember we looked at the landfire veg type raster and it had a single band, and that's fine as far as it goes. There are other rasters that make really good use of multiple bands, and we're going to look at Landsat, which does a really good job of that. Landsat, well, there's several generations of Landsat. The one that we're using in this example comes from a version that had 8 bands, and really there's 7 bands, 1 through 7, and this 8th band is kind of a special one. But the difference between each band, between bands 1 through 7, is that they're each taken the reflectance of the landscape at some fairly narrow band in the spectrum. So band 1 is taken, seeing how the landscape reflects, at 0.45 to 0.52 micrometers right here. See, band 2 is taken up at a little bit bigger wavelength. Band 3 is a little bigger than that. Band 1 is in the blue-green range of the visible spectrum. Band 2 is in the green. Band 3 is in the red. So band 1's kind of right in here somewhere. Band 2 is right in here, and band 3 is over here. Bands 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all in the infrared range, from the near infrared to the mid infrared. So they're all over here somewhere. That means that bands 4 through 7 are not visible. They're showing how the landscape reflects in a wavelength that our eyes cannot even see. Band 8, like I said, is something a little bit special. It's kind of the general reflectance across the visible range, so it's sort of a general black and white image, and people use it for aesthetic effects just to make the picture look a little better. Bands 1 through 7 are the real analytical power bands. All right, so let's make use of this. Go to the next page here. Now, we've got some questions here. Remember how to look up how many bands, how many rows, etc. We just open up the the raster dataset properties. We right-click on it, go to Properties. The raster information tells that there are 8 bands. The rows, 880 by 980 columns. Cell size is 30 meters by 30 meters. Remember, it's 30 here. We want to know what units it is. We scroll down to the spatial reference, and we find the linear unit of this coordinate system is meters. So the resolution is 30 meters. Okay, now, like we said, it has 8 bands, right? Here we're looking at a single data set, but the fact that it has 8 bands inside of it means that we can actually open this up. If I click on it here, then I see the bands. It's sort of like looking into a workspace. These are 8 different little sub-rasters that are all part of the big one. So we can take a look at each one of them. We could add them to a map if we want it. We could also use this details pane here. So we're going to do that. Now band 1 looks like this. And it generally shows up as a black and white image. Remember, this is showing the reflectance of a narrow band of the spectrum. So in this case, the white means it reflects very well at this slice of the spectrum, and dark means that it absorbs. And remember, bands 1, 2, and 3 are in the visible range, and so these highly reflective surface, which also is on the mountain types, you may not be surprised to find out is snow. Now, if we go, band 2 and band 3, like I said, are all in the visible range, very reflective. We start getting into the infrared. Let's look at band 5. Well, notice that snow does not reflect well at that frequency. So, in fact, snow tends to absorb, so it starts showing up dark in these infrared bands. All right. So this is kind of a neat thing. We can make use of that in a lot of environmental analysis. This is what remote sensing is really built off of. You can do some really complex things in remote sensing. We're just looking at the raw data right now. All right, now, it's a question, why does each image look so different? We've covered that. Now, let's open a new map view, load Landsat example into that. I'm just going to right-click on it, go to Add to Map, and it's going to pop Landsat into my map. Did that. lo and behold, it worked. Now notice that ArcGIS, when it loads a multi-band raster, it loads the first band into the red channel, red, green, and blue. Second band always gets loaded into green. Third band gets loaded into blue. And all the rest of the bands are not visible. So with Landsat, that's really not a good strategy. If you remember at the beginning of the lab exercise, band 1 really it shows the reflectance in the blue and greenish spectrum. Band 2 shows reflectance in green. Band 3 shows reflectance in red. Therefore, band 3 should be plugged into the red channel. Band 1 should be plugged into the blue channel. If we want to see this as a kind of a true color or a pseudo true color image, they've got the bands mixed up. So we want to fix that. Now it turns out it's easy to do. We just open up the Symbology tab. We right-click on it, go to Symbology. So here it's showing you that the red channel is holding band 1. Remember, band 1 is really the reflectance in the bluish-greenish range. So and band 3 is the one that shows reflectance in red. So we want to switch this to band 3. Just click the little down arrow. These are all the bands available to you in this multi-band raster. So we're going to switch that over to 3. We're going to switch the blue channel over to band 1. Do that. If we hit OK, and then it starts to look more like what it would look like if you were in a plane looking down on it. Sometimes there's a question about this alpha channel, and we're not using it. We're just using red, green, and blue. Alpha is kind of interesting. It's an aesthetic function. It sets transparency. So you could set, if there was a fourth band in there that ranged from 0 to 100, then you could plug that in there, and those parts of the raster that it had a high value would just turn transparent and fade out, and you could see underneath it. We're not using that. We're just using these bands 1 through 3 here. All right, now that's how we switch Landsat to look more like a true color image. Now, another popular thing to do with Landsat is to take advantage of some of those infrared bands. Turns out infrared is really useful for showing vegetation. I guess chlorophyll reflects very differently in the infrared range. So band 4 is commonly used. So let's go into the Symbology. And instead of bands 3, 2, 1, we're going to switch this to band 4, band 3, and band 2. Like I said, it's kind of a popular one for bringing out the veg stuff. And just for aesthetics here, I'm changing the stretch type from % clip to standard deviation just because it looked better to me. So I'm going to hit OK on that. Now, the red parts are where the vegetation is healthier. And this is kind of interesting down here. If you know Flagstaff at all, this is the country club golf course, and you see those golf links really show up there as well. Okay, now as part of the lab exercise, I'd like you to sort of play with these band combinations, see what some of those other combinations look like. If you wanted to look at this, raster entirely in bands that are out of the visible spectrum, remember that's bands 4 through 7, so we could just plug in band 4, 5, and 6 in there, and this is what the landscape reflects at that range using purely those infrared bands. We're getting some really interesting things jump out too, and it's these unusual things that jump out and are really distinct in these other spectra that gives us real power to understand what's going on in the landscape. All right, thanks so much.